By seeing ourself and seeing this very, very critical nature that he had and how it manifests and how it may manifest in us. So this is from the Antya-lila, chapter 8. This chapter is entitled Ramchandra Puri Criticizes the Lord. So you can already understand it's pretty bad. Somebody criticizes Lord Chaitanya, right? And it's all downhill from there. Bad gets worse. So I'm kind of starting in the middle of the story. This is Antya-lila, verse 8. Antya-lila 8:8. Well, actually, I'm going to see if I want to start in 8. Paramananda Puri offered respects at the feet of Ramchandra Puri. And Ramchandra Puri strongly embraced him. So you might say, well, why are they offering respects to Ramchandra Puri? It's etiquette. Because Ramchandra Puri was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri, both Paramananda Puri and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered him respectful obeisances. In other words, they were like senior godbrother. So the etiquette is you would offer respects to seniors or godbrothers of your guru. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that although Ramchandra Puri was naturally very envious, and although he was against the principles of Vaishnavism, or in other words, against the principles of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees, common people nevertheless addressed him as Goswami or Goshani. Goshani is the Bengali for Goswami, because he was superficially in the renounced order and dressed like a sannyasi. So sometimes you would even respect a Mayavadi sannyasi because you're respecting the sannyas ashram, even though you don't respect their philosophy. So right? So we wouldn't associate with them, but we would respect them as sannyasis. That's part of the etiquette. So he is being respected as a senior and a sannyasi. In the modern age, the title Goswami is used by a caste of grihastas, but formerly it was not. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, for example, were called Goswami because they were in the renounced order. Similarly, because Paramananda Puri was a sannyasi, he was called Puri Goswami. By careful scrutiny, therefore, one will find that Goswami is not the title for a certain caste. Rather, it is properly the title for a person in the renounced order. So, in India, your surname is often from your caste. You know, they're kind of funny names. You ever go to a jariwala, the one who makes crowns for the deities? Crowns and decorations are called jari. Wala means one who has. Wala means one who has. So you go to the Mridanga Wala, the Jari Wala, the Pani Wala, the sugarcane Wala. It just means one who doesn't. You know, if you don't know what it means, it sounds like salesman, right? But it actually means, isn't it? It just means the one who has, doesn't it? So, and you go to the Jariwala and you say, what's your name? Santos Jariwala. That's his name. His name is the caste. And then in Germany, right? My name is Hausner. So Hausner or Hauser means one who builds houses, right? Something like that. I was told. Look it up, see. But there are names that indicate your occupation, your caste. So the name Goswami became a title, like a family title of Brahmins, but Prabhupada's saying that Goswami is actually the title of the renounced order. Look it up, see what it means. House. Houses. How do you say house? House?
Yeah, house means house, but I never heard.
Yeah, well, I'm a house builder. Trying to build a house for all of you. Okay, anyway, you understand the idea. So, text number, let's see, where are we? This is text 9. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered obeisances unto Ramchandra Puri, who then embraced him and then remembered Krishna. So, of course, Lord Chaitanya knows who Ramchandra Puri is, and he knows everything, so he knows that Ramchandra Puri offends devotees and he's going to offend him, but still demonstrating humility and etiquette, Mahaprabhu respects him. The three of them talked about Krishna for some time, and then Jagadananda came and extended an invitation to Ramchandra Puri. Large quantity of the remnants of food from Lord Jagannath was brought in for distribution. Ramchandra Puri ate sumptuously, and then he wanted to find faults in Jagadananda Pandit. Okay. So, what we learn in this story is it's kind of interesting. That, I don't know, it's later, I believe, if I remember correctly, later in this story, Prabhupada said that Ramchandra Puri had an addiction and he was addicted to fault finding. Like he couldn't stop himself. And so this verse is saying, he was like always looking to find faults wherever he could find faults. That was like what he did. It's interesting, right? Isn't it? Don't you find that interesting? I mean, we find faults also, but it's not like we wake up in the morning. Today I'm going to find some juicy faults. I'm going to situate myself in this place, then this place, and these are the best places to find faults. But he was something, literally, he was basically like that. And if he couldn't find a fault, he would create a situation where you would commit a fault so he could find it. Like he wouldn't do this, but like figuratively speaking, he would put a banana peel where you're walking so you would slip, and he could call you some nasty name because you slipped. Weird, isn't it? After finishing the meal, Ramchandra Puri requested, "My dear Jagadananda, please listen. You eat the food that is left." With great eagerness, Ramchandra Puri seated Jagadananda Pandit and personally served him prasadam. Encouraging him again and again, Ramchandra Puri fed him sumptuously. But when Jagadananda had washed his hands and mouth, Ramchandra Puri began criticizing him. This is so weird. You thought you were bad. Check out what happens. But you understand what's happening? He forced him to overeat. Take more, take more. You ever eat at an Indian's home? And they always say, take more, take more. So you imagine they're forcing you to eat. Come on, just take one more. Just a little, make me happy, just eat a little more. And then after you eat, and they criticize you for eating so much. Why you're such a, whatever. Why do you eat so much? That's what happened. So this is what Ramchandra Puri said. I have heard that the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu eat more than necessary. Now I have directly seen this is true. Whoa. Isn't that interesting? Inconceivable. So you understand, now we can understand there's an addiction, like nobody knows. There's no 12-step program for addiction to fault finding, as far as I know. Is there? No, there should be. It would be very popular in ISKCON, don't you think? He's addicted to fault finding. Well, if you had a 12-step program for fault-finding addiction, there would be 8,300,000,000 people signing up for it. Because everybody has it, except the pure devotee. Well, there may be some people who've overcome it, who aren't devotees. Feeding a sannyasi too much breaks his regulative principles. For when a sannyasi eats too much, his renunciation is destroyed. So now he's like, look at you, you eat too much. And now he's explaining why that's bad, because you're a renunciate. And you're not supposed to eat a lot, and if you eat a lot, then, like, what's the point of being a sannyasi? You're destroying your renunciation, and it's very important for a sannyasi to be renounced. So you're kind of destroying yourself. The characteristic of Ramchandra Puri was that first he would induce someone to eat more than necessary, and then he would criticize him. Formerly, when Madhavendra Puri was at the last stage of his life, Madhavendra Puri was his guru. Formerly, when Madhavendra Puri was at the last stage of his life, Ramchandra Puri came to where he was staying. In other words, he's like in his last days, or last day. So this disciple comes. Madhavendra Puri was chanting the holy name of Krishna, and sometimes he would cry, "Oh my Lord, I did not get shelter at Mathura." No, he's just like feeling intense separation. He's feeling the ecstasy of intense separation, and then Ramchandra Puri shows up to ruin everything. You know that kind of person, you know? You're having a great time, and then they show up, and they ruin everything. You have a friend like that? Any of you? Yeah, Prabhu, all my friends are like that. You know what I'm talking about, right? It's like you two are talking, you're having a good time, and then one of you shows up, and it's all about you, and you start talking about yourself, and it's all about how bad everything is in Mayapur, and this and that. And it's like, kind of like that. You know what I mean? Listen to what he said. Then Ramchandra Puri was so foolish that he fearlessly dared to instruct his spiritual master. Prabhupada had a disciple here or there who tried that one. Don't try to instruct Prabhupada. It's not a good idea. I mean, unless you're his secretary, it's practical, but don't instruct him on spiritual matters. Gurudev, you should chant more rounds. You can't be Krishna conscious unless you chant 64. And Prabhupada had a disciple who told him that. This is what he told his spiritual master. If you are in transcendental bliss, you should now remember only Brahman. Why are you crying? So he's feeling intense separation from Krishna in a mood of Radharani, because he was like, Ishwara Puri, Madhavendra Puri was like the one who had introduced, in the modern age, spontaneous love in the mood of the residents of Braja. So he's feeling this intense separation. And his disciple comes and says, Gurudev, what's up? Why are you crying? You should be thinking about Brahman. What's wrong with you? Hare Krishna. Not knowing why Madhavendra Puri was crying, Ramchandra Puri tried to become his advisor. Thus he committed a great offense, for a disciple should never try to instruct a spiritual master. At least not about elevated spiritual topics, especially when he knows nothing about them. Hearing this instruction, Madhavendra Puri, greatly angry, rebuked him by saying, "Get out, you sinful rascal." Wow, how would you like to have your guru tell you that when he's leaving this world? And basically, I think in the next verse he said something. Let me see what he said. If we were going to do a modern adaptation of this, it would be something like, "If I die seeing your ugly face, my whole life will be ruined." You know, it was kind of not exactly that harsh, but basically, you'll hear the next verse. But I want to read the purport first, but that was kind of how he felt. Ramchandra Puri could not understand that his spiritual master, Madhavendra Puri, was feeling transcendental separation. His lamentation was not material. Rather, it proceeded from the highest stage of ecstatic love of Krishna. When he was crying in separation, quote, "I could not achieve Krishna, I could not reach Mathura," this was not ordinary material lamentation. Ramchandra Puri was not sufficiently expert to understand the feelings of Madhavendra Puri, but nevertheless he thought himself very advanced. Therefore, regarding Madhavendra Puri's expression as ordinary material lamentation, he advised him to remember Brahman, because Brahmabhuta Prasanatma, Bhagavad Gita, In the spiritual plane you won't lament. So he thought all lamentation is material. Right? Gurudev, what's wrong with you? Why are you lamenting? So it's like, it's amazing he didn't understand this. I mean, his guru is the one who explains this all, is the expert. He advised him to remember Brahman because Ramchandra Puri was latently an impersonalist. Madhavendra Puri understood Ramchandra Puri's position as a great fool and therefore immediately rebuked him. Such a reprimand from the spiritual master is certainly for the betterment of the disciple. This is what he said. That's like a good line from a movie. Oh my Lord Krishna, he's talking, Ramchandra Puri comes in and says, meditate on Brahman. He doesn't talk to Ramchandra Puri, he talks to Krishna. Oh my Lord, I could not reach you, nor could I reach your abode in Mathura. I am dying in my happiness, and now this rascal has come to give me more pain. So you can see the movie, He's not talking to him, he's talking to Krishna. Yeah, this is what he said. Yeah, I was right. Don't show your face to me. Go anywhere else you like. If I die seeing your face, I shall not achieve the destination of my life. He actually did say that. That's why I said that. I guess I remember vaguely reading this. Hare Krishna. Basically, if I die seeing your face, my life is wasted. My life will be ruined. And you could imagine Ramchandra Puri's like, he doesn't get it, right? I am dying without achieving the shelter of Krishna, and therefore I am greatly unhappy. Now this condemned foolish rascal has come to instruct me about Brahman. It's kind of like in the old days of ISKCON, like some devotee be like walking across the street, and a truck would like run him over and he'd be on the ground and all the Prabhus would come, Prabhu, you're not the body, just, tolerate it, One of those Bhakti Burfi moments, You know Bhakti Burfi? Bhakti Burfi has too much Burfi in his brain. He was not trained well. He was trained by Mahaburfi Swami as, the ultimate fanatic. And, so something like that, yeah. You just got run over. Prabhu, you're not the body. Thanks for the advice. How about an ambulance? You really want an ambulance? That sounds like Maya to me, You should be more tolerant. She knows, there's a lot of Bhakti Burfis where she comes from, right? There's a whole country of them, right? The birthplace of Bhakti Burfi. Now I've just offended all the devotees in Russia. What's going to happen to me? We're just having fun, I hope. Ramchandra Puri was thus denounced by Madhavendra Puri. Due to his offense, gradually material desire appeared within him. Yeah, so here's one of the first lessons. Like, we went to, when we first went to Vrindavan, I think the first walk we took we went to the ashram of Subara Muni, and Subara Muni had made an offense to Garuda, and then, he's this very austere sage doing tapasya for a very long time, hundreds or thousands of years. And due to that offense, to make a long story short, he ended up marrying 50 women. And by his mystic power, he looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Probably better. When Arnold Schwarzenegger was younger, he looked like him. He had mystic power. He was an old man. He was an old sadhu, skinny, wrinkled, very old. And then by mystic power, well, the story's funny. We'll tell it again. Most of you heard it, but he has this desire. Because he offended Garuda, material desire arose in his heart. So he's an ascetic in the middle of nowhere, on the bank of the Jamuna. And all of a sudden he sees two fish, two very romantic fish. I don't know what romantic fish exactly do and look like, but he saw two romantic fish right out of a Bollywood movie. And all of a sudden he's thinking, hey, be nice to be married. So he goes to see the local king, and he's like, he must look like he's 150 years old, and matted hair and wrinkles, and skin is falling off his face. And he says, I want to get married. It's weird, you're aesthetic, you're that old, and you want to get married. So the king's like, no problem. Any daughter of my daughters that would choose you, you can have. And let them choose, you can have them if they choose you. So the king was smart, and Subara Muni was like, wait a minute, this king's trying to outsmart me because look at how I look. So by his mystic power, he did the Arnold Schwarzenegger makeover, and he came back in, and every one of the 50 daughters wanted to marry him. And because he made the offense, he had lost his spiritual life. So he's like, yeah, 50 is better than 1. So he went from ascetic to 50 wives, 0 to 108 in like half a day. It's crazy, right? So that's meant to show us the effect of making an offense, right? And so the same thing happened here. As soon as Ramchandra Puri offended his guru, that was the end. I mean, it really got bad for him. He wasn't doing that well to start with, but it gets much worse. So read the purport. So it says, gradually material desire appeared within him. He's telling his guru, you should meditate on Brahman, don't lament, what's wrong with you? And now he's going to become overcome by material desire. The word vasana, material desires, refers to dry speculative knowledge. Such speculative knowledge is only material. As confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, a person without devotional service who simply wants to know things, kevala bodha labdhaye, gains only dry speculative knowledge but no spiritual profit. This is confirmed in Bhakti Sandarbha. Even though one is liberated in this life, if one offends the Supreme Lord, he falls down in the midst of material desires, of which dry speculation about spiritual realization is one. So it's just basically lost. He lost his spiritual standing, basically. Could you plug it in and plug it in here also? In the Laghu Toshani commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam, Jiva Goswami says, even liberated souls sometimes fall down to material desires, but those who fully engage in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead are not affected by such desires. These are references from authoritative revealed scriptures. If one becomes an offender to his spiritual master or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no. Here. How many no's does it take? Okay. I think Myrash has to go get his ears checked. He didn't. these are, if one becomes an offender to a spiritual master or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he falls down to the material platform to merely speculate. So it's like, if you offend a devotee, then you like chant Hare Krishna, and you don't ask for forgiveness from this offense, it doesn't help you. You're just going down. It doesn't matter what you do. You're praying to Krishna, you're chanting, you're doing, no, you have to get forgiveness from the devotee you offended, because Krishna's offended, because you offended the devotee, and now there's this reaction, and it's just destroying you. It's drying you up. Mayaresh, if you were a married man and that was your wife saying no, 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 and you weren't listening, you'd be in trouble. May that be a lesson. Gotta listen. Okay. Am I right, ladies?
Yes.
They have experience of husbands who don't listen. One who is attached to dry speculative knowledge has no relationship with Krishna. His occupation is criticizing Vaishnavas, thus he is situated in criticism. So this is really interesting. Let's see what the Bengali is. Nindakare criticizes, nindate nirbandha, fixed in blasphemy. So your initiated name is Nindate Nirbandha. Nirbandha means you're bound, right? Tightly bound. In what? Nindate, criticism. Like you can't stop. That's what you do. That's pretty scary, isn't it? Yes? Well, Nindate Nibandha, what's your occupation? My occupation is criticizing Vaishnavas. That's what I do for a living. Well, actually, that's what you do for a dying. So, here is, I find it so interesting. Thus, he is situated in criticism. Wow. Like your constitutional position is to criticize. Okay, we had a nice discussion today, and I'll tell you something from the discussion. A devotee wrote me and said, I'm always criticizing, I'm always pulling devotees down, etc. You can fill in the blanks. I'm always doing that. When someone writes me that, I ask them one question. Do you have self-esteem issues? Because those are classic symptoms of low self-esteem. You're always critical. I'm not going to say Ramchandra Puri necessarily had low self-esteem, because this is a different story. He's offending someone. He fell down. But why was he offending? I mean, that's the first question I ask. Like, you come to the doctor, stomach, headache, this, that. So they start asking you questions. Have you been vomiting lately? Are you sleeping too much? Do you have aches and pains? And they try to ascertain. So there's like first questions. Where's Abhinav? Right? First questions you'll ask. Like, it looks like this, flu or something. You ask, do you have a sore throat? Do you have a cough? Do you have mucus? Yeah, I think you have COVID. Oh no! I think more people die from the flu than die from COVID, isn't it? Yeah. But nobody was worried about the flu. Anyway, that's for another.
COVID cured the flu.
What?
COVID cured the flu.
So I would ask, this is the first thing I would just ask. Just like let's get this out of the way. Is this the problem? Because usually it is. Now, if I ask you what the problem is, you would say, Prabhu, I don't love Krishna. Oh, Prabhu, I'm not humble. Of course, these things are all true. Oh Prabhu, I don't chant good rounds. Yeah, we'll go through the list, right? Well, this is why I criticize. And, technically speaking it is, but often at the same time it isn't. It could just be, your self-esteem is so low, you go crazy if somebody's better than you and you have to shoot them down, right? Otherwise you feel bad. So sometimes that's all it is, right? But here's the problem. We are living with devotees. So, if you have low self-esteem in the material world, you just shoot down people at your job. But now you're shooting down devotees. Then that's not good, right? That's a problem. Yes? You shoot other people down. It's a problem, but it's not a big problem. Because according to Vaishnava philosophy, you shouldn't offend anybody. Because anyone you offend, it's offense. It's an offense. But you just offend someone on the street, you offend the bus driver. When are you going to get a driver? Where did you find your driver's license? On the street, when are you going to learn to drive? So you can offend him. It's not good for you, it's contaminating for you, but it's not like your devotional creeper is going to be destroyed. If that bus driver was an Uttama Adhikari, that might be the end of your bhakti in this lifetime. So, the higher the devotee you offend, the greater the negative reaction, the greater the disrupting reaction. So, we need to associate with devotees, but there's a chance by associating with devotees we offend them. So if we're dealing with low self-esteem issues, it's pretty likely we just offend people. That's what we do. And the people we offend are devotees because we're devotees. So we have to be careful. When you come into Sangha, to be careful if you have this tendency. Or maybe it's not low self-esteem. Whatever, there are other reasons. I think I have an article about reasons I discovered, maybe 20 or 30. It might be somewhere on my website or something. But whatever those reasons are, we need to discover them because if we don't protect ourselves, it's going to have very bad effects on us. I know that you ever made a devotee who stopped associating? You say, why did you stop associating? He said, because I offend devotees. I'm just better I don't associate because my life gets worse. Obviously, you don't want to be in a position where you can't associate. You have to associate. Ishwara Puri, the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, performed service to Madhavendra Puri, cleaning up his stool and urine with his own hand. Wow. So what's happening now? Who wants to tell me what's happening in the story? We're talking about Ramchandra Puri, and all of a sudden, Ishwara Puri, another disciple of Madhavendra Puri, comes on the scene, and there's a description that he was doing menial service. What do you think's going on here? Who said that? Yeah. Contrast. Two disciples, two different attitudes, two different sevas, and two different destinations. That's what's going on. Ishwara Puri was always chanting the holy name and pastimes of Lord Krishna for Madhavendra Puri to hear. In this way, he helped Madhavendra Puri remember the holy name and pastimes of Lord Krishna at the time of death, just like Prabhupada wanted devotees to do kirtan, so they were doing 24-hour kirtan when he was leaving his body, or in the last days, weeks. Pleased with Ishwara Puri, Madhavendra Puri embraced him and gave him the benediction that he would be a great devotee and lover of Krishna. Thus, Ishwara Puri became like an ocean of ecstatic love for Krishna, whereas Ramchandra Puri became a dry speculator and a critic of everyone else. Pretty clear, isn't it? So we always hear, by service of, I don't want to put in a plug for the Mahatmas, but that's what the verse says. By service of the Mahatmas, you become a Mahatma. I'm a Das. I'm not advertising for servants, but the idea is whoever you serve, you become like them, right? So, if you serve the Mahatmas, sincerely, you become like them, and if you offend them, then you destroy yourself. Pretty simple, right? Here it comes, everyone, kind of the conclusion of this section, and then we can stop for questions. Ishwar Puri received the blessing of Madhavendra Puri, whereas Ramchandra Puri received a rebuke from him. Therefore, these two persons, Ishwar Puri and Ramchandra Puri, are examples of the object of a great personality's benediction and punishment. Madhavendra Puri instructed the entire world by presenting these two examples. So this is, of course, divine Leela. And so you ask, well, like, is Ramchandra Puri like eternally a rascal? And why is it Ramchandra Puri and not somebody else? Well, that must be there in his heart, and Lord Chaitanya was using that, or Ishwar Puri was using that to instruct the world. So you have any questions or comments? I mean, I don't mind reading more, but we never finish our questions and answers, so. Yes?
Maybe my question might be a little bit stupid, but it's a very painful question. When you live in town, and every citizen who lives here is supposed to be pure devotee. Somebody said that all the citizens that take birth here, they are devotees. And when you live here, when you come, it's one question. But when you live here, it's a little bit difficult not to criticizing the citizens. For example, about garbage, dust, and so on. When you see when they throw garbage,
Mohini has to answer this question.
all under their feet, it's so difficult not to criticize it, and so you criticize the citizens.
What's your answer, Mohini?
It's very difficult not to offend.
I heard from Guru Maharaj that when you see something in the others, it means that Krishna is telling you in your heart that you have to do something about it. So, because we see this means that we need to work on ourselves. I feel when I heard that from Guru Maharaj, I feel like, yes, that's the reason I'm criticizing something. I need to work on myself. And if I don't do nothing to fix this, I have no right to criticize.
Whoa.
It's hard though. I remind myself every moment not to criticize. It's so hard still. But at least you feel that you're doing something.
I think also that, of course, that's true. Like I often say, if you see a problem, that's your service. Like, bingo. Like, why did Krishna choose you to see that? Because he wants you to fix it. Because everyone else is walking by the trash and they're like, where are the pakoras? And you're walking by and you go, there's so much trash on the ground. This is horrible. This is a holy Dham. And people are coming and it looks like a garbage dump. And okay, Krishna keeps, and every day I walk by it, I get more agitated. So it's like, okay, Krishna must want me to do something. That's one way to think, right? That's how I think we should all think. Service, I mean, a lot of service we have is to solve a problem, right? And those who see the problem are the best people to solve it, I think, or often the best. Because, if you see the problem, generally there's some connection with why that problem needs to be solved, so there's some inspiration, right? Otherwise, you may not see it. You ever been in a temple and you just see something and you change it? You got, this is horrible, and you just put this over here, and this looks ugly, and put this here, and why did they leave this here? And dust this off and get this, and adjust the microphone and get the other mridanga. And, you're just like, because it's bad, so you do it. Right? Yes? Another really easy thing to do, because I lived here and I know exactly what you're talking about, and so many devotees would come to me and complain about this. And it's kind of funny because it's like you build this temple in Bengal, so Bengalis come, of course, right? And Bengalis are not Russians, they have different values, and A lot of the Bengalis that come are villagers, and villagers are different than people from city, and Indian villagers are a lot different from people even in villages in other countries. But I think it's always good to consider or remember, if I were a Bengali villager, I would be just like them. And it's also good to remember they probably have way more attachment to Lord Chaitanya than we do. And so it's a strange combination, because, they're maybe doing things we wouldn't do that we would consider maybe not so sattvic. But they have a lot of attachment, right? They'll just bang into you, right? They'll come to see the deity, they'll run over you. And 3 days later, they'll find you on the ground, like, oh, we ran over her. But they still wouldn't do anything. It's not their culture. So, here's the thing. I'll get to you in a second. I want to pursue this thought. Here's the thing. What I think is essential for all of us to do, I'm going to use her example. I'm going to use her example as a general example for anything that's wrong, anything that we see in a way we wish we didn't see it that way. Right? This is just an example. So we can take her example and expand it. Think of all the things you see that you wish you didn't see it that way. It's not the Krishna conscious way. It doesn't make you happy. It disturbs you and so forth. This is the way I think, and I think we should all think this way. Okay, I'm seeing this way. Okay, these are all Brajvasis, Dhamvasis, Navadvip, Mayapur Vasis. And I want to see them with respect, and I want to appreciate their bhakti, but I'm not. So where a lot of devotees, where they go with this in their mind is to think of all the reasons why I can't see them as Dhamvasis. Well, look at how they live. And they do this and they do that, and they throw garbage on the street, and they spit on the street, and they're smoking, and So you have all the reasons. And with each reason, you just become like more frustrated, and you live here. I live in this place where all these people are smoking in the Dham. This is horrible, blah, blah, blah. Right? I think any of us in a situation like this or similar to this, where we're thinking very negatively or we're thinking in a way that's just not helping us, we have to stop and think, how can I change the way I'm thinking? Because if I think this way, it's not good for anybody, not good for me or them. Right? So how can I see it differently? How can I think of it differently? How can I relate to it differently? That we have to think that way. Otherwise, if you see something in the wrong way, what does it do to your consciousness? It pollutes it, right? Yes? So you're walking around self-polluting, basically, isn't it? Because this is how I'm seeing it, so I'm polluting my mind by seeing it this way. Oh, these people, they're so this, and this. Instead of hello, Adari Leela, there is a big temple here, that's why they came, and that's pretty cool that they're coming here. They could go to the water park or the local equivalent of Disneyland in Bengal, if there is such a thing. Some amusement park or something, or some fair. They could, but they're here. So that's pretty good. So you can start shifting, and then appreciating. And that will, because ultimately you want to save yourself from yourself, and you want to reframe how you're thinking about it. Anyway, try that now. Yes?
You were saying that there is a reason why Krishna is pointing out something to you. And I was wondering...
Well, take... The reason, sometimes the reason could be because I have a problem and I see faults. But my point was, well, if you see them, go fix them.
Yeah.
And Krishna chose you to see it, so go fix it.
And that was my question, because what if you feel like you want to do something about it, but you feel like you have no qualification at all, and there is nothing really that prepared you to do something.
Go tell somebody, we have a problem. We need to fix it. And I don't know how. what, tell somebody who has some power and influence and intelligence. So sometime, and then you might say, I don't know anybody, I can't do that. Then you talk with a friend, say like, what could we do to fix this? You'd be surprised at what you come up with if you actually talk about something. It's quite amazing, actually. Especially if you're really concerned about it, right? So you talk about it. And the last case scenario, the worst case, is just that, okay, at least I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to throw garbage on the street. That's all I can do. Wherever I go, I can pick up trash. It's not going to... You know that story, the man's throwing... Fish are coming up on the beach and he's throwing them in the water. So the kid says, well, that doesn't help. And he goes, well, just help that fish I threw back in. Sometimes it's all you can do. Mother Teresa must have started like that, right? A few kids, something. Sometimes it's all you can do. But for your own conscience, your own sanity, doing that will help you. Because otherwise you'll think about it. Right? So you could try something. Is that okay? Yes?
My voice is a little bit gone, so I will try my best. So, I wanted to connect to what's being spoken now and yesterday.
Okay.
Because we hear, I think we all agree that devotees have a little bit this fear of criticizing because of
Yes.
the reactions.
Yes.
And sometimes that maybe go to one extreme, or another extreme that what you were saying, where we see that things are not going in a good direction, but we are afraid to say anything. And then we kind of create this environment in our movement where everybody knows there's something wrong, like you said, what was happening with all of these sannyasis, for example. But it took some time until everybody admitted that, okay, we have a problem. So how to deal with that, as individuals? How to be authentic in that way?
Well, that time there was a time in our movement after Prabhupada left where we were confronted with problems we never had before. Now, it was a confusing time, and a lot of devotees had different ideas. And a lot of devotees were trying to change things, but the people who were leading didn't want to hear from them, or didn't acknowledge that their suggestions had value. And I think our intuition, as I remember it at that time, was just wait. It has to inevitably come to the point where everybody sees the problem. It'll become obvious, because things won't... We just knew they couldn't continue effectively the way they were going, and it would eventually become obvious, which it did. And an example of this is that some devotees would suggest solutions, and the time was not right for the devotees to understand that those were solutions, and they would be laughed at. And sometimes it would take 20 years before everyone would acknowledge that was actually the right solution, and then they adopt it. And we heard Prabhupada say, first they will laugh at you, then they will try to, kill you or destroy you. Then they will praise you. That was, I think, Mahatma Gandhi who said it. Somebody said that. So apparently that's just an historical reality. When people don't understand you, they try to persecute. First they laugh, then they try to persecute. And then eventually they appreciate. So Prabhupada said that would happen to our movement, and it's happening within the movement. I mean, I was at meetings today, which is an example of this. The things we talked about, if you talked about that in 79, wow, just make sure you didn't talk about it on the 5th floor of any building, because you would have a free flight downstairs. You know, it was like, it would have sounded like they would have thought, you're the nuttiest thing that ever happened, you're the most offensive devotee in the universe. And now all the leaders of the movement are talking about those very same things that you would have been ousted as a heretic or something. So I've seen that so much that a lot of devotees ask me questions like, we have this problem, and I try to talk to the leaders, and they don't listen. And often I'll say, just wait, because there is no other solution than this. It's obvious, it has to come to this. But there's resistance because we've never done it before, or we never talked about it before. So people they're not sure. That we were talking today with Vidyanidhi and his wife, how, because they're psychologists, they have many devotees that very much appreciate what they're doing, and a lot of devotees that don't. They think like they are the anti-Krishna, Psychology is another word for the devil, So some devotees feel that way. But if you give it enough time, and you see enough healing and more functional communities, because they're introducing principles that are necessary for healthy psychology and healthy social interactions, eventually it's like there won't be any debate. It's just like, yeah, this works. And you have to just wait. And in your heart, if you know something's right, and maybe it's an idea which is not well established yet or known or discussed, if you can see that this is a way of functioning, it's a sattvic way of functioning, it's the best way to do things. Unless it's against our philosophy in some way or sinful, eventually it'll have to. Because, things work in a way where they have to work, right? So you just have to be patient. And go on in your area, like wherever you have influence, doing what you think is best. And then that, if you do that, you won't be frustrated, because at least you'll have some area where you can say, well, in the area where I do my programs and preaching, this is how we treat people, this is what we say, and it works really well. So at least you have the satisfaction. It's like, somebody cooks for you, and it's like, oh, it doesn't taste good. At least I can cook for myself, I'm happy what I eat. And we have to stop, because the devotee who asked me to come is like, he really wants me to be there at 7, but anyway, we'll get there for Nrsimha Arti. And then we'll do kirtan till 8:30. Is that okay? And there's always, no, not tomorrow night. Tomorrow night we're going for kirtan on the Ganga and Jalangi. And then we'll have Friday night, Saturday night for more controversial discussions. Wow, interesting. I'm not really, to me this is not controversial, it's just...
Where we are going tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow morning, I have a meeting at 7, so tomorrow morning we're going to walk around Mayapur. We go up where we went to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and then we come down instead of going across Jalangi. We go along the Jalangi. And then we go down to the Samadhi. And then we end up in the Samadhi about 6:30, and then we finish our rounds. And then if you want, you can go to greeting and Guru Puja. I have to go to a meeting at 7. Service before pleasure. You can have the pleasure of continuing to chant, and I will do the service of dealing with problems at 7 a.m. Hare Krishna. Okay, so I have to just leave. So that's what I'm going to do, and somebody else is going to pack everything up and make sure everything but that stand gets in the bag here. The power supply, all of you on Facebook, we're ending early because I have to do kirtan. Maybe the kirtan will be shown on Mayapur TV. You never know. Yeah, it'll be on Mayapur TV. So, okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Premanandi Hari Hari Go. Krishna Balaya.